الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين. In the name of Allah, the Compassionate, the Merciful. This is session 20th on the rest of lesson 16, and inshallah then we will start lesson 17 of the book Philosophical Instructions. In the past session we had a brief study of positivism, and we mentioned some of the criticisms against positivism. Our discussion today is related to the issue of priority of sensation or intellect. So we want to see which one is more fundamental and more important, which one underlies. There are different ideas among Western philosophers concerning the priority of sensation or intellect, and they discuss this issue in different ways as well. For example, regarding the order of occurrence of sensational knowledge and intellectual knowledge, regarding their value, and also maybe in other aspects. What is here important and what will be discussed here is the issue of priority of sensation or intellect in respect to ideas, and secondly in respect to affirmations. If you remember, we mean by idea here at-tasawwur, and by affirmation at-tasdiq, and we had discussion about this distinction between at-tasawwur and at-tasdiq before, and also about different elements involved in tasdiq. So we don't need to repeat those discussions. So what inshallah we will be doing here is to see separately, independently, whether sensation is prior or intellect. First in respect to ideas, and secondly in respect to affirmations or propositions or qadaya. Of course, we mean here by affirmations or propositions at-tasdiq, which is to some extent different from qadiyya, but in many cases they are the same. First of all, the author gives us some short introduction to the issue, and then in the following lessons we will discuss them in more details. So in the remainder of lesson 16 we will have a very quick review of the priority of sensation or intellect in respect to ideas and in respect to affirmations, but then we will have separate lesson on each of them. Those who believe in priority of sensation believe that the main and the original and the primary source of our knowledge is sensation. Whatever else is only a change, an alteration, a combination, a generalization, or at most abstraction of sensational knowledge. So intellectual knowledge is nothing other than a sort of change or a sort of putting together or generalizing or abstracting some sensational ideas. So they deny, in this sense, priority of the intellect. They also deny that there is something different in nature, something which is not just a combination or abstraction or generalization of sensational knowledge. They deny the existence of such a thing. The people who are empiricists, the people who are positivists, usually have this idea. And if you remember, we had also group of people who were denying the existence of even universal concepts. Not only they do not believe that intellectual ideas can be different in nature, but also they deny their existence. So this is something that, inshallah, we will talk about it more shortly when discussing about lesson 17. The other issue is about priority of sensation or intellect in respect to tasdiqat, in respect to affirmations. So the author says that those who believe in priority of sensation believe that whatever judgment we make, whatever affirmation we have, is only a matter of experience, a matter of seeing something, for example, outside, observing something, and then putting that into a propositional form, putting that as an affirmation. Our intellect can have no independent judgment. Our intellect may later come and make some judgment, but it is only when we have already some sensational knowledge. So every intellectual knowledge must be preceded by sensational knowledge. Every intellectual affirmation must be preceded by sensational affirmation. On the other hand, there are some people among Western philosophers, some rationalists, like Descartes. I'm not saying that all rationalists are like this, but some rationalists like Descartes, they have the idea that there are some intellectual affirmations which are not preceded by experience or by sensation, and they call them innate ideas. Of course, here by idea they don't necessarily mean ideas in the sense of tasawwurat. So they mean there are some innate, there are some natural, some nature given knowledge which exist in our mind without any need to experience. Of course, there is a more articulate, more deliberate account of this idea, which says that there are innate affirmations which may need some sensation or some experiences to awaken us about their existence. So they are not caused or originated by sensation, but when we are born, we don't have them in actual form, and we need some sensation so that those can come into scene, those can come active, become active. Anyway, what the ideas of Descartes was this, that there are certain ideas which are part of our nature. We are created with these ideas. We are given these ideas by God. And for these ideas, we do not need any sensation or any experience. So this was to refute the idea of empiricists who believed in priority of sensation. And the other thing is that empiricists themselves were not always the same. Some of them were saying that all our affirmations are either sensational or preceded by sensational, and they meant by sensational just the ordinary knowledge which we have by 5 senses. In other words, they only meant by experiences, external experiences, experiences of the world outside, by seeing, by smelling, by feeling, touching, by hearing, and so on. But there were also some empiricists who were prepared to accept the existence of internal experiences, spiritual experiences, mental experiences, maybe you could call it, in which you experience something inside yourself. And that is a sort of knowledge by presence, like experiencing the feeling of joy or feeling of sadness or grief and so on. So they were not always the same. This is a very short idea, a very short introduction to the issue of priority of sensation or intellect in respect to both ideas and affirmations. Now let's start lesson 17, which is a more deliberate, a more detailed account of priority of sensation or intellect in respect to ideas. So now we want to focus on this and discuss it in more details, and then inshallah later in another lesson we will talk about this issue of priority, but in respect to at-tasdiqat, to affirmations. Okay, so now let's just focus on ideas. The other says that we mentioned before that Western philosophers have different views. Some believe that we have some ideas which are created by God inside us. Those are innate, those are fitri, and these ideas are not in need of any sensation or any experience. For example, the concept of God himself, the concept of soul, nafs, or for example the concept of figure or continuity or extension, al-imtidad. These are some ideas which are not taken, which are not derived from sensation, which are not derived from sensation. He was calling these primary qualities or first qualities, and Muslim philosophers call it al-kayfiyatul ula. In Arabic we use al-kayfiyatul ula, primary qualities or first qualities. And these ideas, which are understandable only by reason or intellect, are in contrast to secondary qualities which can be understood by our 5 senses, like for example a smell, like for example color, like for example taste. So he was very clear in distinguishing between these two sorts of concepts, and he had the idea that primary qualities or first qualities, because can be understood by our intellect, so we can have certainty about them, we can be sure about them, we can be free from doubts about them. But secondary qualities, which are based on sensation, are not immune from doubt or suspicions, so they are not certain. and we may make mistakes. So we are not sure whether we have, for example, a feeling of something being in a special color or a special smell or tasting in a certain way, that we are really making good, right, a truthful judgment about that or not. I mean, for example, whether that thing really has this quality or not. This quality even may not exist at all in reality outside. The color that I feel maybe not really there outside. Maybe no such a thing as, for example, red color for rose flower. So this is the idea that Descartes had. So this was an attempt by Descartes to say that our knowledge is not totally based on sensation, and we can have certainty, at least in respect to some sort of our knowledge. Another example of rationalist philosophers is Immanuel Kant, the German philosopher. You are already familiar with some ideas of Kant. Kant had the idea of certain categories being imposed on the way that our mind works. So his idea was that our mind